operations of those facilities that would really support those four-year degree programs. Well, fast forward 20 years, and I'm sure it feels to some people on this call like a blink of an eye, but we are in a position where we're now offering 51 different bachelor's degrees, and we continue to offer certificates, technical certificates, our associate's degrees, but we also offer 2 master's degrees. And the rich history includes things like just a tremendous investment in our capital assets and the facilities that you see around you when you come on this beautiful campus. And the promise that was made to offer bachelor's degrees is only realized by those individuals who do graduate with bachelor's degrees. I looked at the past 10-year history, and one of the things that I realized was that more than half of the actual earned credentials from this institution now are bachelor's degrees. In 10 years, we actually gave more than 13,000 credentials to individuals completing those certificates, associates, bachelor's, and master's degrees. And in that time period, more than 7,000 were bachelor's degrees. That is a tremendous commitment, not only to this region, because about half of our students come from Sebastian County, but also a tremendous investment back into the community, because we know those individuals are likely to stay employed right here. So I think we have a wonderful history going back to the initial question, and it's one that we are incredibly proud of. As the chancellor, that's what I've heard primarily since my arrival at the institution, is how proud people are of the University of Arkansas Fort Smith. The fact that we're here, that we are providing an exceptional education, and that our graduates stay right here and benefit this region. So that's, man, I feel like I ran through that history in such a quick period of time. And for those of you who want to learn a little bit more, we have the first 85 years of the institution up through 2012. That book is available. And then anytime you want to, buy me a cup of coffee, I'll tell you a little bit more. We have a lot of people around the campus who would love nothing more than to tell you some of those great stories.
Well, I agree. And as director of the Alumni Association, I'd be glad to buy somebody a cup of coffee and share some history. So Dr. Riley, can you tell us a little bit about what plans are in place or what things are being considered if the tax is renewed?
Oh gosh, absolutely. It's kind of exciting, really, to think about the possibilities for the future. So let me first explain the tax extension a little bit so that you'll understand what we mean by the future for the institution. The tax extension is truly to keep a level amount of tax that we've been collecting. So we're not asking for any kind of an extension on this ballot question. It's simply a renewal of the same tax for 10 years. Over the course of the 10 years, you can imagine us dreaming about what the future is of this institution. So some of the things that we are working on include things like creating national centers of excellence. We have a couple of programs on our campus already that are fairly well known to this community and have certainly been supportive within the community for business and industry and for workforce development training. But we can imagine that those institutes can become centers of excellence, things that are well known and bring people to this region, again, hoping to grow Sebastian County and the whole region through having those partnerships and connections. We are working diligently on academic planning, but also on strategic enrollment management planning. So how we grow the actual number of students on this campus, helping them to complete their degrees in a shorter amount of time, whether that's through affordable pre-collegiate programs like WATC or our concurrent enrollment programs that help them to afford college, or if it is simply streamlining the offerings that we have currently on our campus. We know that students will choose UA Fort Smith for a lot of reasons. We're affordable. We have the safest campus in Arkansas, but almost more importantly, we have one of the best, most sound educational qualities that you could find. We are accredited, and not just as an institution accredited, but most of our programs and disciplines are accredited also, which means that they meet the highest standards that are required for those disciplines. So again, we believe people are going to continue to choose us. We know that growing those programs and offering more of them will certainly be something that will live up not only to our previous promises, but it's exciting for our future. Knowing that that's true, we will probably have to extend our footprint as an institution, whether that means growing in terms of our facilities or renovating some of our current space to make sure that it is state of the art, both for classroom spaces and also for laboratories and creative activity. All of those things are part of our future plan over the next 10 years.
Well, then, so on, I guess, the other side of that coin, what will the impact be if for some reason the tax is not renewed?
So what I haven't mentioned so far is the amount of money that we bring in with the Sebastian County sales tax. On average, it's about $6 million per year. That's roughly 8% of our annual budget. You can imagine, particularly in a time when we're already grappling with the potential of budget cuts or reductions in our allocations from the state, it's really concerning overall that we might have any kind of a reduction to the resources available. Despite how difficult things have been for us during our pandemic, UA Fort Smith has been completely committed to continuing to be affordable. We've not raised any of our tuition or fees. We also have not furloughed or laid off any of our employees. We are one of the few institutions of higher education that can tell you that. And that is because we are completely committed to the people who work here, because we know if we care for them, they will care for and educate students. There's no question that there is a strong correlation there. And so you can imagine my concern is that if we do not have the sales tax revenue over the next 10 years, that some of the maintenance and operations of this campus and some of the capital assets will truly not be maintained at the level that they have, and we'll have to make some very strategic cuts. The other potential outcome would be an increase of our tuition and fees. One of the things that I've heard so frequently since my arrival a little more than a year ago is how proud people are about keeping college affordable. Our faculty and staff work diligently truly, these are not people of luxury. They work so hard to stay not only within their budgets, but to save money each and every year. They have not had pay increases in a number of years because they have worked so hard to stay affordable and to put money back into our facilities as it's been needed. We have not raised our tuition and fees dramatically over the last several years, and we would not want to have to do that. If the tax is not extended, and let's say we didn't do anything else to cut our actual expenses, then truly for our students, that could be up to a $600 per semester increase that they would see if they had to make up the entire difference. These are just our students who are tuition and fee paying students. So understandably, that's not the only strategy that we would utilize. We would be making some pretty major decisions about programs to cut or individual positions that would not exist at the institution. So again, something we hope not to have to face.
Well, again, I'd like to encourage anyone on the call to, if you have any questions, to submit those to the chat room. If the tax is approved for renewal, how long will it be extended for, and can it be renewed again?
So the tax can be extended for up to 10 years. That's actually what the ballot question asks voters to determine. If they choose to extend the tax for 10 years, they would vote yes, and if they do not, they would vote no. I want to be really clear that there are going to be some questions you may have that I'm unable to answer, because in my position, I am only allowed to give you information. I will not advocate, and I cannot advocate for voting in any certain way. I certainly encourage everyone to vote. That's part of our civic responsibility as tax-paying citizens. But Whether you vote yes or no, you'll have to come to conclusions on your own. I won't influence that. I think tell me your question again one more time, Rick.
I'm sorry, can it be renewed again after the 10 years?
So what will happen if the tax is renewed for 10 years? At the end of that 10 years, it does sunset. We would have to go through a brand new tax program and put forward a new ballot question that would require an additional vote at that time. I think from my perspective, we will be strategizing and growing as an institution. And so we would hope that throughout the course of the next 10 years, we're putting together great plans and using the funds very wisely. I have a question in the chat about how do you counter the argument that other campuses do not get revenue from this sort of tax? I'll answer that one if you don't mind. I know we've got some folks monitoring our chat, but I'll just mention that one. I think it's important. So community colleges do typically have a millage from a district, and that's what initially supported this institution. When you go and look at the actual appropriations from the state of Arkansas, and you divide that by the number of students that we have, we receive dramatically less funding than any of the other four-year institutions in our system. When you add in the Sebastian County tax funds, we are still one of the lowest in terms of the funding that we have per student. We're basically, and believe it or not, I know this will be counterintuitive to you, we will basically be flat with UA Fayetteville, which is the second lowest in terms of the appropriations they receive. Now, of course, they have additional endowments, research funds, and things that they have at their disposal beyond the appropriation, because we're primarily a teaching and creative activity institution, primarily focused again on undergraduate studies. We do not have all of the additional fund types that UA Fayetteville has. Fairly certain most of you on the call would nod and say, yes, that's very obvious. But in this case, it's important to note that that is what helps to level the playing field for us, where we do have some additional resources that can continue to keep this affordable and provide the types of small classroom sizes, individual attention, where students do not feel like they are numbers. They know they're important individually. We hear that over and over again as one of the special elements of this campus, and this support helps us to do that.
So we do have another question in the chat room. What will be our long-term plan to wean ourselves off this source of revenue if we do not seek a new tax 10 years from now?
Okay, if we do not seek a new tax 10 years from now, one of the things that we will have to do is diversify the fund types that we're receiving as an institution. That could be a focus on grant writing, on receiving research funding, on other revenue generation that certainly could help with some of the strategies that we're talking about. Secondarily, of course, we may increase tuition and fees, or we could make some cuts across the institution, whether that's programs that do not have high enrollment, or that we strategize those programs that we're going to offer and narrow those down to some degree. I think that's something the institution would decide over the next 10 years. So we would have about 10 minutes before we start to go into a planning process if that tax is extended, because obviously we don't let grass grow under our feet. We have a great team of leaders across campus, wonderful faculty and staff who are really dedicated to looking down the road, not just planning for tomorrow. And if the tax is extended, it gives us a bit of time to do that and put a full plan into action. We've already, as I mentioned, begun our strategic enrollment management plan, and we've begun to really calculate, if we activate all of the parts of this plan, how does that increase our overall number of students, our student types, our time to degree completion, which we are trying to reduce, and our number of transfer students who have interest in the institution as well, trying to get our institution's name out to adult education components, where students who have not completed degrees but would certainly be able to access our educational opportunities, our degree programs, either online or in person, that they would also be attracted to being here. So we have a pretty robust strategic enrollment management plan that'll be rolled out to our campus within the next month.
Okay, and then as a follow-up, we have another question. Is there a potential for the state legislature to increase our state appropriations, or are we locked in with the new performance model?
So the performance funding model, I don't believe there are any plans to change that model. And the model is really based on, as it says, performance, but it's looking at students and how they move through the pipeline of learning. So if it's persistence, if it's degree or certificate completion, that each of those things gives an institution points. And in those points, it converts eventually to dollars. However, the way the performance funding works and the way it was written by legislature is that there are things called guardrails, where an institution, no matter how much we grow, the most that we can ever receive additionally from the previous year's base funding is a 2% growth model. So we could work diligently, we could grow 10% and only get about a 2% increase over the previous year's base. So without a major change to that model or a major shift in the legislative appropriation, which we do not see happening, then that's really going to limit how much that growth can help us financially. So again, to give you a reference point, that's about $400,000 maximum per year additional funding that we would receive.
Okay, do we have any other questions from any of our other participants? Dr. Riley, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I think we've probably got some folks on the call who may want to just share their knowledge or history with either our tax, our region. I would just ask for people to feel free to join us in having some of this discussion. I think you can unmute yourselves if you'd like to speak or raise a hand as part of the process.
Dr. Riley, we do have one more question in the chat. What can faculty and staff do and not do in terms of lobbying for the tax and as private citizens?
Okay, we do not use the word lobbying.
That's what the question is.
So let me be really clear. And it probably, again, feels very counterintuitive. I'm the chancellor and I'm incredibly supportive of this institution, but I am never allowed to ask people to vote in any certain way, and I won't do that. So as employees, though, many of you have additional freedom that I don't. So for example, when I'm Walmart in the freezer section, I'm still the chancellor of the university. And when people see me there, they know that. In fact, when I was grocery shopping this past weekend, some folks came up to me and said, so what's happening with this all in for UAFS? Tell us about the signs, what's going on? And I was pretty limited in what I could share. However, for those of you who are employees, we want to be sure that you understand your rights and responsibilities in terms of any kind of ballot questions. In this case, you have the capacity and ability to advocate either way for this tax or against this tax extension in your own free time. You are never allowed to use the University of Arkansas or the University of Arkansas system or the University of Arkansas Fort Smith, your name tag, your work shirt with your department name on it, something like that when you are out talking with people about the tax. So you have to be incredibly careful. You cannot use the university email address to email people and say to vote for or against the tax. You're not able to use your letterhead. And again, you should not use your title, because if you are out talking about this in the community, it has to be you as a private citizen who is advocating one way or another. In that case, it's okay without wearing things like your name tag or using your letterhead, that if in your own time you want to talk with friends, you're at the, you're at church, you're at a store, you're at dinner or something, and you would like to talk with folks about this tax extension, you have every right to do that as a private citizen. It is often a good idea to express that you are only speaking in your role as a private citizen, not representing the institution, or not representing your role at the institution specifically. So I know that's sometimes hard to remember. It's become sort of my middle name now. Hi, I'm the chancellor. I am never allowed to advocate. Would you like information? They go, we really just wondered if you'd hand us an avocado. Oh, okay. So it's become ingrained in me now, but it is fun because I think in a smaller community where we all care about each other, they just want to know what's happening here on campus. And for those people who don't get a chance to be here or to hear some of the things that we're doing, like on our Chancellor Chat today, they just want to stay attuned to what's happening with our campus and our future. So I appreciate that very much.
If I could step in for just a second, I am Mike Barr. I am the chair of the Friends of UAFS, and we are the committee that is responsible for advocating. I can advocate as much as I would like to, and so I'm here. Excuse me, I have a little mute problem there. But I am posting in the chat a website, allinforuafs.com. There's a lot of details on the website. I encourage all of you to check that out. The Facebook page is under the same name. So we're going to try and curate a lot of content that's important, talking about the importance of the university to the community, as well as the economic development that we hope to see. So we are really, really excited to be a part of this, have a great committee. I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of people in the community as well as we can. This is different, obviously. We hope to meet people face to face, but we'll certainly take our opportunities to meet people digitally. But as the chancellor said, the 10-year window for this tax is about $60 million, probably a little more, assuming there's some growth over the next 10 years. That's a really significant resource that the university needs to continue to keep college affordable. We want to make sure that our students that are coming to campus can graduate in a situation and be put in a position for success, changing their trajectory quite a bit. So we're really excited about getting to the finish line and seeing success. In terms of what you can do under the confines as a staff, as the chancellor laid out, you have some boundaries we need to worry about, but that doesn't keep you from putting out yard signs. Certainly doesn't keep you from reaching out to your friends and family, talking to them about the importance of this tax renewal, and make sure you're using the word renewal. This is not a new tax, it's a renewal, $0.25 renewal. But talk about the importance of that money to the university and what the university is going to be able to do. If you look back over a 10-year period, the last 10 years, 10 years ago, we had 400 bachelor's degrees conferred in the referenced year. In 18 or 19, it was almost double. We've conferred 826 in 2018, 2019. That shows that what we're doing is significantly impacting our community. These bachelor's degrees are ending up employed with our corporations and helping our corporations grow. So we're really excited about seeing that. We're really developing in our communities. We're developing a sense of alumni. I'm sure Rick could speak to that. We're seeing more and more of a traditional alumni base. The student population is really, really important to the fabric of our community. So we're really excited about seeing them turn out. We want to see them come out and put their stamp on this election and show how important the college is to the community. So we're really excited about that. But the website is there. The yard signs are available at the Fort Smith Chamber of Commerce. I saw a little chat question there. So you should be able to call down there and make sure they have some at any given time. As we run out, we will be making more. But I'm glad people have already seen the signs, and we're really excited. I've got a sticker on, all in for UFS. So we'll see some more resources and more logos coming out. So we're really excited about that. The election's November the 3rd. I want to make sure everybody gets out to vote. That's really important. I know there's a lot more people voting absentee. So if you're doing that, some of those ballots are being mailed as we speak. But we're really excited about running up to November 3rd and seeing a great success for our community. So we're really excited about that. But be sure and reach out to your friends and family, educate them on the importance of the college and the importance of the tax and the importance that our community is going to reinvest in the college. We can see over the last, really over the last 50 years, 60 years, what the community investment has done for our college. And we're just really excited to see that that growth continue and really start to grow exponentially. So are there any other questions that I can do to enlighten you on the importance of this, or answer any other questions? Well, I really appreciate the time. I'm glad the Chancellor gave me a few minutes to talk about our efforts, and I've got a chat coming through. So how will the renewal appear on the ballot? It worries me that it might appear after the road tax renewal. Yeah, we're not sure about the position on the ballot. There is actually some uncertainty about that, but we're going to try and get that cleared up in the very near term. I believe it will be down the ballot because it's a county initiative. The highway tax is issue 1, I believe. There's 2 or 3 more statewide issues, so I'm sure we'll be down the ballot from there. And so we are a little bit concerned about that. You know, the highway tax is that's a big pot of money, so we are concerned about that. But we're really comfortable that the county citizens are aware of the impact the university has. I'm sure we can get in front of enough people to make our case. We can't control how the ballot's going to appear, or any other snafus that might or might not occur with those ballots, but we certainly are responsible for our message. And if you check out our website and our Facebook, we're going to have a consistent message going out there, and people watching social media to make sure we're communicating in all different channels. So you'll start to see some ads and start to see some billboards, and it's really exciting. Like I said, so we can't control how it's going to appear on the ballot. We just need to make sure that we're educating everybody as well as possible, and that ultimately it's a county decision. And for each individual household, it's not that significant of an investment. It's a quarter-cent sales tax. I don't want to dismiss the every tax dollar, but at the same time, it's a really solid investment. What percentage of the sales tax is directed to UAFS under the current arrangement? I believe it's 100%. Goes straight through as a quarter cent. So last year it was the last full year it was 5.8 million. This year being the Corona year, I'm not exactly sure where that's going to come in. I know our estimates really ratcheted back to about 4.7 million, but I know that the sales tax estimates had beat that by a significant margin. And that's based on all of the money spent inside the county. So it goes all the way to Greenwood, all the way back to the border. So it's all of our bedroom communities as well.
I will just mention that we've been exceptionally lucky, I think, as a community, that we have not seen a dramatic reduction in the sales tax revenue generation over the course of the pandemic. I know that we can certainly all be grateful for stimulus checks and the additional unemployment payments that some individuals in our communities received as well. The commitment of many of the organizations and businesses who have not had to furlough or lay off employees, or that if they have, they've made sure that it was during a period of time when they may have received additional unemployment payments. And so for our particular institution, we have not seen a reduction in that sales tax revenue generation that we've received. That could change over time. We've been very conservative, assuming that there could be a reduction in that. And so obviously that may, by being conservative, allow us to have some investment, at the institution as a result. But I can tell you that the placement on the ballot at this time, obviously this is considered, despite the fact that it's happening during a regular general election, you would note that it's called a special election. And the question appears to be on the second page of the ballot after any of the constitutional amendments or other measures. And so, but it is not a special ballot election, and we did not have to make any payment to appear on the ballot. So the quorum court actually voted to add this to the ballot for Sebastian County voters to make your decisions. For people who are on campus, if you have not registered to vote, I know that we're having kind of a voting, action happening so that we can get people registered to vote. I believe that the last date to register is October the 5th. So we certainly hope that, especially for our students, that you will get registered to vote if you're not already registered here. And certainly talk with many of the employees or your faculty about items that are either on the ballot or issues of importance to you, and how it is that voting makes a big difference, because every single vote will count, not only in this election, but in every election. And so that's important for you to remember. I believe our special election period, besides the obvious absentee ballots being mailed out and mailed back in, we do have our early voting that will start to take place in October as well. So be sure that if you want to register to vote, that you do that very, very quickly. I believe we'll have some people with a table out tomorrow, trying to get people who are signed up to vote.
Dr. Riley, I remember, because I'm old, I remember when the millage was turned into a sales tax. And at that time, part of the reason for it was talking about paying off bonded debt and also capital improvements. And I think it might be useful to people, because I've seen the list, but to talk about what the money has been used for over the last 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a pretty accurate statement, that we have used the funds for our renovations or improvements to our campus. That was part of the commitment that we made years ago, that we would have the facilities necessary for four-year degree programs. And you can imagine that buildings like Fullerton, Flanders, Math and Science, Baldor, et cetera, those have all been renovated over the years. And we have a full listing of all those facilities that have been renovated or have been added to, but primarily where we've added technology and laboratories and creative activity spaces. Those have all been added as a result of having the additional funds from the Sebastian County tax. You can also imagine that it costs quite a bit of money to maintain all of those facilities and to do maintenance on them, as well software contracts and things for our classes. So we've also used the tax funds to do that. And that's exactly what the ballot question will indicate, that it is for capital improvements and for maintenance and operations to the campus. It remains exactly the same as it was 20 years ago. And Judy, were you about 5 or so when that happened last time? Good memory.
I'm just old as dirt, you know, it's just one of those things.
Stop. Okay, I see more chat happening. Let's see. Rachel's included a list of some of those renovations that we talked about in the chat. And Mike indicated those are physical improvement lists are on the All In for UAFS website. And we have a place where you can go for registration forms on campus at the library. So we hope that you'll do that.
Dr. Riley, you said you think there'll be a table on campus for voter registration. Do we know where that will be located?
My understanding was that was going to be in the campus center. Rachel, you're smiling. Is that something you believe is true also, that it's tomorrow?
Tomorrow is National Voter Registration Day. I don't know where and when there will be people tabling on campus, but I do know that the library has registration forms at the desk, and they have also provided where you can have one sent to you by mail and print one out yourself. So there are lots of options, and tomorrow is a big day for voter registration.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions. We'll wait just another few seconds if other people have questions. I think it's been an interesting conversation. And Dr. Riley, as always, we appreciate your time. And Mike, we appreciate your being on the call and your input.
Glad to do it. Glad to be here.
Well, then I think maybe we'll start to wrap it up. So on behalf of the University of Arkansas Fort Smith and Dr. Riley and the Alumni Association, thank you all for participating in the call. Our next Chancellor Chat will discuss some of the many different ways that UAFS collaborates with the community and how that improves both quality of life and quality in place. And as another shameless plug for the Alumni Association, we will be sponsoring a virtual 5K run beginning October 14th through 17th through the 31st. You can complete your 5K at any time, in any way, and anywhere in between those times. Registration, excuse me, registration fee is $25. And all that money goes directly to our Alumni Legacy Scholarship Endowment, which provides annual awards to qualified students whose parents, siblings, or spouse attended UAFS, any of the West Arcs, or Fort Smith Junior College. So I'd like to encourage everybody to register and get out and be healthy. And close by saying, please register, please vote. Decisions are made by those who show up.
And I'm going to go ahead and stay on the call. If anybody has any other questions, we're happy to stick around for a little bit and answer those. And you see the 5K information, the link to that in the chat. So if you want to click on that link and get registered, you've got basically 2 weeks for a 5K. It may take me the entire 2 weeks to go that far. I told Rick and Jasmine I only run if I'm being chased. And so I challenge each of you to chase me on these 2 weeks. My guess is you'll beat me to the finish line every single time. But we look forward to having your participation in that as well. It's a lot of fun to do that, even though it's virtual, to kind of log your time and help support a great cause for our scholarships.
Well, Dr. Riley, we appreciate you registering. And by the way, if you register before October 1st, you do get a very cool free t-shirt.
Awesome. Lindsay Lawrence says she's training. If anybody wants to join her.
Yes.
Lindsay, I'm going to be your biggest fan and cheerleader. Go, Lindsay. My training is probably going to include kicking it on back and watching you from here. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you.